folks, Lorraine here at the end of day one of the Materiality Marathon. I want to quickly recap a few things, just some of the technical learnings and doings of the day focused on the stakeholder interview process. And then I want to quickly touch on a finding that I feel really inspired by and give a little forecast for what's coming up. So I had set the intention of working on the stakeholder interviews today. This little panel on slide 2 gives my daily intentions, and that takes us to slide 10. And this is where all of the links to the stakeholder interviews are found. There's a little bit more to update here, but I'll just take you backstage a little bit so you understand what's here. Maybe it gives you some ideas about ways to make research findings available. Maybe you have feedback for me about how to make this better. And also just some interesting little technical things that I learned that I have found really useful to make this information useful to me as I'm trying to understand the food industry. So first of all, let me just move my head out of the way. Each of these interviews has a description with a set of links, more information about the person's profile, back to the main deck where this is embedded, but maybe that's not where the person got to this video. There's an audio version that functions just like a podcast, exact same sound, just no video. There's a written transcript, and I want to say a bit more about that in a sec. There's also links to more information broadly about materiality, and if anything is mentioned during the interview where I say something like, I'll make sure to leave a note in the notes, that note is here, I hope, and if you find anything missing, let me know. So a word about transcripts. I talk about doing what I call artisanal transcripts. And I'll quickly take you backstage in case this is useful, because it took me quite a while to figure out how to do these. Essentially subtitles is what they are. So let me go into where that is. I'm going to find it. It's here. This is all of the captioning that is automatically generated. It sometimes takes a little while. I've seen it take over an hour, and sometimes I just let it load up overnight. And then this is all backstage with YouTube. And you can see it in chunks that are time-stamped, but you can also see it as a block of text. I take the whole block of text, I copy and paste it, and I turn it into the main transcript. However, you'll notice in these blocks of text, wherever that went, there's no punctuation, and there are a lot of errors. So when I create the transcript, I go line by line listening to the live interview, I attribute the speaker, I punctuate it, and I make the corrections. And sometimes I would say they're actually really important. Sometimes they're really funny, and I kind of wonder, like, how did that happen? But sometimes they're just wrong and misleading. I make the edits here in these transcripts, and I circle back and edit right in the captions of the video. I found that really helpful, and I think it's really important for the quality of the research, because I believe some people aren't going to have the time or interest to watch or listen to those interviews, but there may be nuggets embedded in those written texts that they can scan quite quickly. So I feel like that's really important. I've also been doing something where I'm cross-referencing. So I learned how to stitch in cards. Those of you who are experienced YouTubers, if you have any advice or ways to accelerate the learning, let me know. But so for example, during Heather's interview, which I'll link here, she makes a really interesting comment about regionality in food. And it's actually quite different than something that Fabrizio Moriana mentioned in his video, and I'll put it there. So in each of their videos, I cross-reference. In the second one, I reference that first one saying, that's interesting, because there's a complement and it's a bit different to that story. And so I have the option as the kind of omniscient narrator to stitch those things together, and perhaps that helps amplify, deepen, or widen the information. So I found that really helpful. Another thing I've been finding really encouraging, for example, in Judith Schwartz's conversation, she talks a lot about the opportunity for the food industry to be a force to heal the earth and to heal ourselves. And of course, that really resonates deeply with me, something I've been thinking about in my own food industry and overall industry explorations. I put a little kooky diagram here in case you're curious. So that's just a kind of top line finding that's been coming up. I feel humbled. There's so many more conversations I'd like to have. I'm one person with a lot of biases, so I'm only extracting what makes sense to me. So please go deeper, listen, apply your own minds and filters, keep asking questions. Thanks for your encouragement and coming along with me on this journey. Tomorrow, I'm going to be diving into the investor earnings call transcripts and listening in on the executive messaging and signaling around sustainability and all the interesting work Denon is doing, and continuing to develop the findings and bring this assessment forward. So thank you so much. Really excited about what's ahead.